legal resources, and victim assistance. Our moderator is going to be Peter Aquaro, and our panelist is Harris County District Attorney Sean Tier, Assistant District Attorney John Brewer is not here. Assistant District Attorney Adam Broderick. And Assistant District Attorney George Lindsay. And I'm gonna let Peter take over from here.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Aquaro. I'm the Public Safety Chair for the Southwest Management District. We are so excited to have everybody here today to really have this conversation and open dialogue, and very fortunate to have Sean Tier and his team here with us. So how about one more round of applause before I get them to introduce each other. Sean, why don't you kick us off, tell us about you and everything.
I'm impressed with myself. Hi everybody, I'm Sean Tier. I am your Harris County DA. I have been on this stage numerous times introducing myself to this incredibly vibrant and engaged community, so I'm ecstatic to be back here again, and Dawn, and Kenneth, and Tony, and Nancy. What an incredible event that y'all put on. I love that it's the first annual, and I plan to be at the 20th annual. So I'm excited to get going. I've seen a few of the questions, and I think they're going to be important for this group to hear.
Well, good morning. My name's Adam Broderick. I'm really excited to be here with y'all. I'm a little bit nervous, so if I'm yelling, I apologize. But my name is Adam Broderick. I'm the chief of the Consumer Fraud section in our Financial Crimes Division. And we handle lots of financial crimes cases that we can talk about later.
Hey, good morning. My name is George Lindsay. I'm a native Houstonian. I'm a prosecutor of the Harris County District Attorney's Office. I'm a chief prosecutor in our Robbery Burglary section in the Organized Crime Division. I'm so excited to see so many people here so that we can generate an informative discussion regarding our community safety. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of the questions. And if everybody could listen up, we'll be able to get this going and get some really good information across to you guys. All right, so first off, I think one of the things when we as the Southwest District got to visit the DA's office, one of the things that we learned a lot about was, can you share a little bit about the intake process and how that works?
Yes. Buckle up, this is going to take a while, because it is, I think, the most important change that we've made since I took office. These two gentlemen I've worked with for a long, long time, they are experienced chief prosecutors. They were there when, like myself, when intake was really the function it should be. It is the front door. It is the front door of our office in liaising with all of our law enforcement community. In Harris County, no police officer can arrest an individual without first calling and walking the facts by an assistant district attorney. For decades, we had seasoned, experienced prosecutors that were there, that were a resource to our law enforcement officers. I can't tell you how many times as a younger prosecutor, I would get a call at 3 a.m. and the officer would say, I don't know what I have. And I would say, I don't know what you have either, but let's go through the penal code together and figure it out. What it did was allowed officers on the streets to be able to file the strongest, best cases, being ready to be tried as quickly as possible. What happened about 8 years ago is that that system was broken. We took the experienced prosecutors out of the mix. and put in people to answer the phones who had never tried cases, who were never on the street with the officers. And what you saw was an increase, a drastic increase in the number of cases that were actually filed but subsequently dismissed because we weren't being the resource to law enforcement that we needed to be. We weren't helping strengthen the case from the very moment that the police officer called us to the time that we eventually tried him and convicted him. That had disastrous effects all the way through the criminal justice system. We have jail overcrowding. Our dismissal rates for cases we filed was up into the 30%, meaning we said yes, and 30% of the time, we eventually dismissed the case. That hurts everyone. That hurts the law enforcement officer who eventually has to come testify or not. It's drastically increased our indigent defense fund. And again, the jail overcrowding is a direct result of that. So we brought experienced prosecutors back into the mix on January 1st, and we've seen it already. We've seen a 10% drop in the jail population. And it's not because we're dismissing cases, it's because we've also seen a 40% increase in our trials, meaning we're evaluating the cases and we're going forward on them. And that has the effect of all the other cases pleading out and doing what should happen. And that's all because our intake provision was changed.
Very good, thank you. That actually leads, it ties into the previous panel a little bit, my next question. One of the things that we here in the Public Safety Committee, we have the Chinatown Public Safety Committee, my chairman, Jonathan she is here. So one of the things that we have a lot of questions on and concerns about is the public tends to see the same criminals back out again and again, and then they don't feel that anything's happening when really it is. So what's the importance of actually reporting and what is recidivism? That's the word I think that doesn't get translated very well in the community, and how can we help the community do better and report crime?
All right, I'm going to touch on this and then I'm going to hand it over to George because George is in our organized crime division. He is responsible for prosecuting a lot of the people that we have seen before. I think that there's no question that for whatever reason, politically, we have seen an uptick in the reporting of someone out on bond. The numbers don't bear that out. We are seeing the same percentage of people reoffend after they're released on bond than we had in 2010 and even 2000. The difference is that over the last 8 years, and it's not all my predecessor's fault, a lot of it was things beyond their control. We had Hurricane Harvey, we had COVID. But the length of time from arrest to eventually sending someone to prison or putting them on probation or anything went from about 18 months to about 4 years. So what you're seeing is the same group of people are staying in this community as opposed to going on to the next stop and have an opportunity to commit more crimes. And so by shortening the time frame, we're going to see a lot of that drop out of the news. George?
Yes, sir, thank you. One of the things, and to address the question, and it's even kind of a multiple part question if I may, so I'd like to kind of break it down a bit. First, things that the community can do. It becomes frustrating when you are a witness or a victim of a crime, and as your case moves its way through the court system, you may feel as if nothing is happening. And that is I can assure you that is not the case. You have dedicated folks like Adam and myself who are fighting it out in the court every single day to represent our community. And one of the things that we focus on, particularly in our organized crime division, is our crime drivers. These are individuals that basically are 2% of the population that are responsible for 90% of the crime. and we aggressively seek them out and prosecute them to the best ability and the best extent of the law. When the district attorney took office, his direction to us was get these cases to court, get these cases to trial, and get them moving along. And that's exactly what we've been doing. Everyone in our office has been working diligently and pushing these cases as aggressively as we can in the court system. And in some cases, that determines that maybe someone is innocent and needs to be exonerated and have their due process. And in cases where that is not the case, we need to do our best to bring the evidence that we have to hold them accountable to move on to the next spot, be that out of the Harris County Jail, into the Texas prison system, and out of our community in order to keep our community safe. So the best thing I can tell you, what the community can do is, one, please understand the process. Please stay in communication with that prosecutor who has assigned your case, and please be patient with the process. Know and have trust and faith that we are moving that case along, and we are fighting for you in that court system.
Thank you very much. You're the person I don't ever want to see unless you're fighting for me. I don't want to be against you.
And not only that, I think it's great that we're doing this right before Memorial Day because we have a true war hero with us. George spent a long, long time in armed services, multiple deployments. You wouldn't know it to look at him, but he's a pretty scary guy.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a question from the crowd. I'm going to actually get to the heart of the question here. Can you please share with the attendees today, what is the difference between a civil matter and a criminal matter, and how does that work? And how does it escalate?
Well, we get this a lot in consumer fraud. So consumer fraud deals broadly with the buying and selling of goods and services. So we get a lot of people who are professional scammers that enter into business contracts with people and then fail to perform on the contract. Now, it's very important that you understand that just because someone fails to perform on a contract does not make it a crime. That could be breach of contract. But the biggest difference, I would say, is criminal intent. So we have to prove, when we're building these cases against people, we have to prove criminal intent, which means that at the time that they took the money from the victim, they intended to steal it. They didn't have any intention to perform. Generally, the way that we do this is two ways. First, we find more victims. We do that. We have contacts at the Better Business Bureau. We have contacts in the community where we can research and find if there's more victims. If the law is very clear that if there's one person who enters into a contract with another person, and this person pays, and this person doesn't perform, and that's all we have, that is a civil issue. That's a breach of contract. And it can be sued upon. The difference is if there's 18 of these people who have entered into contracts with this person during the same period of time, that's very important, and none of them, they've all fallen kind of prey or victim to the same scheme. None of them have had any performance done, or any performance that has been done has been to elicit more funds. You see this a lot of times in construction cases, where somebody will do partial performance to kind of get the next draw of money. That's how we can prove criminal intent.
Very good. Thank you very much. The next question actually has been in the news lately, and it has to really address with nuisance, game rooms, stuff like that. So can you talk about the Chapter 125 and the nuisance abatement issue and how that gets addressed here in the community?
Yeah, this one is definitely in my wheelhouse. The illegal game rooms, the unlicensed bars, the after-hours clubs, they are all, in my mind, lumped together, and they are real crime drivers in our communities. Somebody was asking me the other week, how do you identify them, how do you find them? And it is so easy. You go to any roll call for any officers that are working the night shift, and you say, what are your worst spots? Where do you get most calls for service? And 9 out of 10 times, that is an unlicensed after-hours club or a game room. We are putting together an internal investigator group that is going to be led by a lieutenant investigator. It's going to be staffed by investigators inside our office, along with 2 prosecutors that are going to liaise. HPD is doing an incredible job right now going around hitting these places. We're going to work with them. We're going to work with the constables and everyone else to go in an undercover capacity to make sure that these places are doing the wrong thing, serving after hours, having illegal gaming. I know there are baccarat tables sitting out here now in just the wide open. So we're going to do the enforcement actions that stop them. But the problem and where we are going to be different than what we've done historically is we never go after them in the 125s. We never go after them in the civil remedies that allow us to temporarily and sometimes permanently close that establishment. That can only be done through civil actions. The way that you get these people's attention, in my mind, because they're making money hand over fist right now without any real repercussions. They don't care if the people that they have working in them go to jail for a day. That doesn't bother them. They're up the next day running. But when we start taking their property, seizing the dirt and auctioning it off, holding the places through the 125s and asset forfeitures accountable overall, we don't have to shut every one of them down. We can make examples of a number of them and truly create a better life for the rest of the community that has to be subjected to living around us. So that's our plan, and we're going to utilize 125 and a lot of the other nuisance statutes in that effort.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I have another question here. It's furthering on the bond process and how does that work? I know you touched on it a little bit in the front end on the intake process, but can you talk more about the bond process, the bond issue that keeps criminal off the streets, but the arbitrary, and they feel arbitrary in today's political environment, but I don't believe that's actually the case.
You know, I'm going to touch on this again and eventually give it over to whoever else wants to touch bond. But I wrote an op-ed last month in the Houston Chronicle. I've been up to Austin to testify. There's a bill that just came out of the House that I hope the Senate adopts as is. It's going to give judges discretion to hold certain crimes, people that commit them at no bond, at the forefront, right? I'm talking capital murder, I'm talking murder, aggravated robbery, aggravated sexual assault, kidnapping, things like that. Because right now, the Texas Constitution does not allow a judge to hold someone at no bond, regardless of the type of crime. They have to get a bond. I think this is going to be a step that gets us closer to the federal system, which effectively takes money out of the process. Because look, I think the questions that we have to ask are, is someone a continuing danger to the community? And are they a flight risk? If the answer is yes to either of those questions, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or you spent last night under I-10 because you're unhoused. You stay in jail. If the answer is no to those, again, here's your court date, we'll see you when you get there. It should have no bearing. Your freedom pre-conviction should have zero to do with what's in your bank account. But that's where we are now. And so I think this legislative session, moving toward giving judges discretion, is going to actually help with getting people who are simply in jail because they're too poor out. And that's the way that we approach bonds in my administration, but it's also the way that I think the community wants it. Because we have really dangerous, scary people out there who should not be out. but the judges are required by the Constitution to give them bonds. Let's stop that so that we can let the people that don't deserve to be in there out. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think that was spot on.
It's just because I'm his boss.
You know, another question is how can we, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, how can we help better understand the process between the challenges of working with the judges and deferment versus actual prosecuting the crime? Am I asking the question correctly there? So we're seeing a lot of deferment issues, that kind of stuff. So can you help us understand that better?
George, you want to walk through what deferred adjudication versus probation is, and then I'll move into diversions after that.
Sure. So what I understand about the question is how, I guess, deferments work and then what that process is. So a lot of our job, and the mainstay of our job is to see that justice is done, and that's to seek justice. That does not always necessarily result in or mean a conviction. As we know, and as I touched on before, there are crime drivers. There are just people who are violent, and there are people who want nothing more in our community but to raise Cain and cause pain and influence and just chaos. But then there are also people who, and honestly, the majority of our youth, where sometimes they fall in with a crowd, or sometimes they may make a mistake. And the law allows for an opportunity for that individual to prove to us as our community that more or less they can really be salvageable. It is not lost on us that when someone has a criminal conviction, they are essentially marked. And they are marked, in the state of Texas, they are marked for the rest of their lives. There is no provision within the law that says that if you are a convicted criminal, that after a certain period of time, that law disappears, or that crime disappears off your record, and that goes away. So it is not lost on anyone on this panel, nor any of our law enforcement brethren and sisters, that that is a major pivotal point in someone's life. So the law allows, in this provision, for the courts to take a look at someone and weigh the interests of the safety of the community, the facts of the criminal offense, and make a determination if this is an individual that we want to give a second chance to. And then that goes into furtherness of, there are conditions. There may be conditions of, listen, you may have made a mistake, but now, with the court supervision and the community supervision, we are going to make you get your GED. We are going to make sure you give back to the community that you hurt in order to prove to us that you are worth a second chance. And given that period of time, the court can then make a determination. On the flip side of that coin, if you commit a violation, you commit another criminal offense, then you have someone like me that you're going to tangle with. And then that's going to result, unfortunately, it's going to result more than likely in you getting a felony conviction, misdemeanor conviction, or potentially going to prison. Because if you can't prove that you're going to keep our community safe, quite frankly, we don't have a place for you here. And with that, I turn over to the boss.
Just like Roderick said, 10-10, no notes. That was perfect.
I am not his boss, by the way, just in case anyone wants to.
Okay, we're going to start to wrap it up, but as we do, what I'd like to do as we wrap this up, I want to start with George and we're going to work back to Sean. I don't want let Sean do all the talking here, okay?
Thank you.
So each of you have your own expertise in the area. What advice would you give to the community based on your expertise on how they could help themselves, right? How to not be a victim, how they can help themselves and move forward?
Sure, that's a fantastic question. So as I kind of began this, I mentioned that my focus is violent crime. I'm a violent crime prosecutor, I'm an aggressive prosecutor, and I go after crime drivers with an aggressive mentality with the focus of segregating them from our community so they can't cause further harm. Some things that we can do as a community, some things that you as business owners, people that live within your community can do, is the number one thing is to stay vigilant. The major risk to you, to the community populace that you are, is you just living your natural lives, going to gas stations, going to the bank, going to the grocery store. These are pivotal points where the criminal element finds you at your weakest and tries to exploit you. For our business owners, understandably, that sometimes you have to move money from your place of business to a bank or a financial institution and back and forth. A good thing you can do is vary that time. Never be complacent. Also, don't believe that that bank teller on the other end has your best interest. You never know who someone is going to be and who someone is going to be targeting you. Also, make sure that if you're at a bank for a period of time, there's certain things you can look out for. If you see a car that has been parked there for a period of time with all tinted windows, perhaps they don't have a front license plate or a rear license plate on their vehicle, maybe it's occupied with more than one individual just sitting in the car, that's something that you want to bring to the attention of the banking staff. That's something you want to bring to the attention of your law enforcement brothers and sisters out there who may be working at that bank to help provide security, and just kind of keeping an eye on the community. The last thing I will tell you, nothing good in this world happens probably after 2 a.m. Absolutely not. I tell this, I have a 15-year-old son. I've been military for quite some time, and I used to tell this to my young soldiers. Nothing good happens after midnight, 2 in the morning. Promise me. I promise you that if you think something fun is happening at 2 a.m., you probably just go home and sleep, and then wake up the next day and hear about it and go on with your life. The fear of missing out should probably be suppressed, because when the night criminal element comes out to play, you really just need to be vigilant and procure yourself from that. So again, my focus then is being violent crime and just taking steps to help insulate yourself from that element. So again, I know my time, but thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I'll be here if you guys want to touch on base 101 about anything you may have.
By raise of hand, how many of you have ever had a fraudulent charge on your credit card? Keep them high. Now look around the room. You see how many people there are? Everyone is affected by financial crimes. Everyone. So here's a few things. First of all, if you're a victim of financial crimes, first report it. Please, please, please report it. Please trust us as prosecutors and trust the police that we're going to take this seriously and that we're going to try to get justice for you. So please trust us and report it. We have to work together. To not be a victim, here are some things that I would tell you to do. First, ladies, please don't hang your purses on the back of your chairs when you're at a restaurant or somewhere like that. I had a case one time where literally a guy walked past a purse, grabbed the wallet out of it, and by the time the police were already watching this person, by the time they got to him, he was in the back of his car. He'd had a device out. He'd already made 4 credit cards based on what were in there. So don't hang your purse on the back. If you're entering into contracts with somebody, please insist on a written contract. Please read the contract. Please make sure that you know who you're dealing with. Get copies of identification. Take pictures. Don't be afraid to take pictures of cars. I've had people come to my house to do work on my house, and I walk outside and take pictures of the license plate on the car. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but if that person rips me off, I'm going to be able to tell the police, here's the license plate of the car that pulled up to my house. Please do not pay in cash for a better deal. As a financial crimes prosecutor, it is very, very difficult for us to prosecute crimes when they're cash deals. I know that sometimes people give us better deals if we pay with cash. I totally get it. But understand that in order for me to take that case to trial, I need evidence. And evidence largely, in a lot of my cases, means bank records. So I need to know where the money went and how it was spent. So that's a few things. Same as George, I'll be here if you have any other questions.
Since I am over the whole thing, I just want to echo our incredible Chief of Metro, Chief Tim, and say, look, he really is second to none. I've worked with that man for a long, long time. But his job and my job are very similar. One thing we are not are ICE agents. We are not members of the federal government. We do not enforce immigration. There is a group, there's a culture right now of fear in our communities around immigration. And what it is doing in real time, we're seeing it, is chilling an already large group of people in many communities that we have. It's chilling their desire to report crimes. It is increasing them, some of our undocumented communities, some of our documented immigrant community, they aren't reporting when they're victims. And so there are predators out there that know that. And they are preying on these communities even more. So my message to help not just yourself, but your entire community to not be victims of crime is to report to your local law enforcement when you're a victim of a crime. Report. We don't ask status. We don't ask status at any point in the prosecution of a case. The only time that we ever get involved is if victims ask us about U-visa applications and other ways for people to stay in this community, in this country, because they are immigrants. We help with that. So the one thing I can say across all spectrums, be it financial crimes, be it violent crime, be it any other type of crime, please report it. We do not work with ICE. We're not a part of the federal government. The officer that comes and takes your report is not going to ask you about your status either. It's not our job. We don't care about it. We care about making this community safe, and this community is our entire community, the most diverse county in the country, and it's made up of everyone. So please, if you leave here with nothing else, go tell the people that ask you about this to report when they're victims of crimes. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Just to wrap up, and I couldn't have asked them to end that any better than what I wanted to share with you before we walk off and say thank you. In our community, as the Southwest Public Safety Chair, in our Chinatown Public Safety Chair, Jonathan, every time we hear from the community, we always ask, have you reported the crime? It can't get to these gentlemen's desks unless you get it to the people on the streets. Nathan Wynn, Metro, HPD, it doesn't matter. Get it to an officer. Get a report number. They're not able to look at everything on the internet. Social media is not the place to report crime. Report it to HPD, report it to Metro, report it to the Sheriff's Office. Get it reported. If they can't handle it, they're going to get you in the right direction so it can get to their desk. That is the key word here, everybody, is we need you to report. And there's safe ways to do it. And if you need help, ask somebody for help. We'll get you there. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Sean, thank you for staying the whole time. I know you've got a busy schedule. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dawn.
Great panel, great information. Thank you so much. And we do have a token of appreciation to present to all the panelists.
I know everybody's so excited. I want to give a special acknowledgement to DA office, Shantir, because we never have a DA office engaged with the community so deeply. And very first time, the office will establish AAPI Outreach Council. So thank you very much. We know that we have more to support the DA office, and that will help the community too. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, and let's give another round of applause for the panelists. And thank you so much for the information. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank all the signature sponsors to make this event possible. We have Southwest Management District Board, Global One Bank, Jacob Insurance and Risk Management, 3M Graphic, Dan Diamond, talk about Dan Diamond, which donated 2 1-carat flawless diamond. All right, so we're gonna ask Shantier's district attorney to draw attention. We're gonna draw this 1-carat flawless diamond.